So with the new year starting, I think it's about time to upgrade my little painting station area. And the first thing I need to do is go and re-get my airbrush. So as someone that has a lot of tools, I find that the airbrush is usually a useful one. But in recent months, because of the growth of the business, in so much we're now doing second hand, we're now doing a second laser, we've got the mug press and all this sort of thing. We've got loads of things that we offer to wargamers now. I had to sacrifice my hobby corner, and my goal for 2024 was to actually give myself more time to hobby and to document that process to help sort of invigorate others and give people insights and things that may help them. And now my airbrush has been sat in our spare room for quite a long time, and I haven't done anything with it. I've borrowed a few rattle cans, and mainly I just haven't painted anything that I needed to prime first. So I've been doing lots of things from older projects, and I think it's time now that I reset up my airbrush, and then from there I can then build back in the paints and systems that I want. So here it is, the little airbrush setup. So what I've got is, obviously, I've got a compressor. I would always recommend getting one with a tank just because it gives you more consistent pressure. I've then got my actual airbrush itself. This is, don't ruin everything. This is the Iwata Eclipse, if I remember rightly. It was just basically, it comes with a 0.4 and 0.2 needle. Now, you'll see it's not been used in about 6 months, so it needs a good clean to get ready. And then I've got a nice little water part, which is just for cleaning out, and then an emptying thing. This is where I empty out all the paint and stuff. So we'll get it plugged in and we'll see where we're at. So for cleaning, you're going to need cleaning tools, probably some gloves, some Mr. Muscle Nice and Shine, thing of water. I've also got hot water here, which I'm going to use with some airbrush cleaner and some airbrush cleaner. So once we've actually disconnected the airbrush, what we're going to need to do is take it all apart. Now I've got some hot water here to actually soak the parts and just reheat any stuck on paint. Now to take this apart, it's going to be nice and simple. All I'm going to do is undo the back end, undo the little holding part here. Now this is where it's useful to have something to put these little parts in. So I'm going to use a patented Rampage Games mug just to keep bits and pieces in that are loose. So a little thread, and then do this part here, and this will get me to the main chamber of the airbrush. And again, these bits here I'm just going to put in because it's got where my string is, and then I need to undo the front end here. Now, because this has been so long, this is very stuck here, and you can see, hopefully, on the tip there's little bits of paint residue. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of this apart. This bit here is obviously my dual action, so I'm just going to put this in to my part and put this aside. The main bits I'm going to need to clean are obviously the actual end and the tip itself. You can see I was priming black probably last time that I did this. My actual needle itself, and most likely I also need to go through and do the chamber and the entranceways here just to sort of clean up any clogs. I can see here already that there is bits and pieces where it is not perfect. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to add some airbrush cleaner to my hot water. All I'm going to do is dunk in my parts into it. Now, my actual little needle thread here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change it slightly, and I'm going to use the actual needle itself very carefully to push through on the ends, because what's more than likely happened is on the tip here, this bit here, is where there's little bits of residue. So what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to try, just rub it up against the side without damaging the end, and just get as much crap out as I can. This is definitely in need of a deep clean. As the air runs down here and the paint obviously gets pushed out here, there is the occasion where it gets pushed up back here. So what I need to do is also do that on the other end. So as I'm cleaning this, I'm going to go through and do the other end. I'm also going to need to do the cup as well. This is where this comes in really handy because I've got loads of different sizes to get what I need into the parts that I do. The idea here is obviously that I should be able to get through the entire airbrush. So my end here is full of crud, and all I'm going to do is between my needle, which I'm going to use very carefully, and my cleaning tools, I'm going to try and get all of this residue paint off. We've kind of got the other bit ready already, so here I'm just going to go through each of the gaps. Now, this may not look like much here, but in actual fact, this could cause a serious blockage. So in actual fact, going through this, doing this with a needle, is really important to make sure there's nothing left in this chamber that would impede the speed or the paint or you know, cause us further clog. So just be really careful. Like, I'm going to dip this a few more times, going to give it some more time in the airbrush cleaner, maybe even wrap a bit of Windex through it just to try and make sure that every part of that on the inside is clean and ready. With the airbrush reassembled, all we're going to do now is just keep testing it. So it's going to put through some airbrush cleaner and just see if it's going to push through the airbrush and come out. So you can see here nice and easily it's coming through, so you can see there's pressure and there's water, so that means there's going to be able to go paint through. Once done the airbrush cleaner, to make sure that we're nice and straightforward with this, all we're going to do is then put some water through it as well and just clean out the airbrush cleaner itself. Next up is the paint test. I'm going to just use a Pro Acryl, one of the Ninja John special paints, to just test out. Now, typically you want to just dilute these down with thinner to do it, but I'm just going to give it a quick squeeze and just see if I can get a little bit of paint through it to see that it's all fully working as intended with a thicker fluid. Once we've used our paint, it's time to clean, and this is where it needs to be a bit more thorough. So I'm going to use a lot of water from this water jet, or this little spray bottle, just so it can get rid of all the paint around the edges, and then I'm going to use my dispenser pot just to spray it through as well. I'm going to do this quite a few times just so I want to get as much of this paint out as possible to prevent a clog in the near future and having to go through this entire process again. Obviously this is only like a 10-minute video, but it does take a while. Okay, ideally I'm going to do an airbrush cleaner a bit as well. And on here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and get some backflow. So basically I'm going to seal off the end so it has to go backwards to push out the stuff from the tip. And this can be easier depending on the airbrush that you have. And again, once the airbrush cleaner's gone through, it's more water, and then we're pretty much ready to have it go for another session. I hope this video has helped a few people and that you can now join me on beating your backlog.